swears game developers across the board outside of VR owe them something, which is crazy. So, yeah, make sure that you do your research before you buy any game at full price, and that to me is super important. So then you have after that, right? So now you're in VR, you got some games that you like. Are you going to get peripherals? This is the next step. I'm a big peripheral guy. I have been before VR. I have a Cobalt Flux DDR pad, which is $300. It's made out of pure steel. I've got like racing wheels. I guess Virtual Boy's more of a console, but I have one of those. I have all that kind of stuff, guns, and so now you have a choice. Like, all right, racing games. Do I want to really play in VR with a controller, or do I want to play with a wheel? Well, of
is this
course
stuff
you want to play with a
you
wheel.
need to have?
No,
like if you're getting introduced to it, you don't. Okay, so you don't really need it, but it's cooler.
Right. So this is like the last step is when you're showing somebody VR is like, okay, now we're gonna try something with a wheel. I wouldn't show them a racing game with a controller, just because you want somebody to feel the excitement of racing a car. So. I have a racing wheel. It has force feedback in it, so it vibrates. It shakes over bumps. It shakes over gravel, stuff like that. And people seem to really enjoy that. You might get motion sickness going in reverse, I find. Even I get it a little bit, but it doesn't hurt that bad. My buddy Jake can't do it for too long. And it also depends on how it's implemented in the game itself. Playing Dirt Rally, it's fantastic. Playing American Truck Simulator, I get sick taking a turn. You know what I mean? It's got to be implemented very well. And it's a little bit different, I guess, than showing someone or trying to get somebody into something like board games, because VR is like, again, the cost of entry is huge, and who are you going to play it with?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting you into VR, you're just going to play with me? VR is a very, very, it's a very tight-knit group of video game players. It's not something like Destiny where there's millions of players to go play online with. If you're going to go try to play online in something like Arizona Sunshine, it's only a 2-player co-op game. You better have someone else to play with. There's a lot of single-player stuff that they have to be really interested in order to really get the most out of a virtual reality headset. And a lot of gamers out there, a lot of people who don't enjoy video games still do like the virtual reality medium because of it's by themselves. They're not in the multiplayer stuff. They go into these game worlds and they do these stories, and there's a lot of different experiences. There's stuff to look at. There's casual stuff, and then there's also stuff where you're shooting around guns like crazy and picking up stuff and throw it, like super actiony stuff. And they like all that stuff mainly because they get to play by themselves. You know what I mean? Not everybody's a multiplayer gamer. So
if you're trying to get me into it, you're gonna make me play like, you're not gonna show me something like really in depth. Are you gonna try to sell me VR?
No, see,
you know what I'm saying?
It's there's a fine line there, because I can't really sell you VR, but I want you to try it. Okay. I feel like now that I have one, and I invite anybody that I know over to come try it. I've invited strangers over to try it. Not that anybody's ever come, but like, I feel like it's important to know what it is, what it's like, how great it is. I haven't had a single person not enjoy it. I haven't had a single person not say that's the most amazing thing I've ever done in a video game. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in someone who's interested in it, there's nowhere to try it. Nowhere. Even if you go to a Microsoft store or a Best Buy, what they're going to let you try is nothing. You're going to get in there and look around and be like, man, that was cool, but like, what else can I do? And when I show people, depending on, like, if I'm showing 5 people, you guys are not going to get a great of a demo as if I brought one or two people over and spent an hour and a half showing a bunch of the stuff and, different peripherals, stuff like that. So I'm not necessarily trying to sell someone a VR headset, but I want as many people as I know to try it so that they get an idea of, man, that was fantastic. Maybe when I get a computer, I'll come to you and we'll talk about what I need to do something like this. Almost every person I said, that has tried it has said, I need to get a computer to get one of these. And that could have just been off excitement. But like Matt just bought me and him had the same computer, and he did it because of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's usually my regimen for showing someone VR. I can't really say that it's easy to get someone into it, even if it's great, because purely of the cost of entry. And most adults don't even have a ton of time anymore to super enjoy that kind of thing. But in general, that's, I like to start really slow, stuff to look at, and then by the end of the day is when you play something like Robo Recall, and you're blowing stuff up, throwing stuff, and that kind of action sets. Now, to talk about the Vive and the Oculus difference now, the reason why I chose Oculus in this case is because I actually read about the controllers and what they were going to be. I do have them here, but I'm not going to show them, whatever. But I like their controllers better. They have a separate button for grip and shoot, right? So like with Vive, you're grabbing something with the same button that you shoot with. So now that thing is just stuck to your hand, and you press a regular D-pad style button to let go of it. As for Oculus, something is on your hand. If you let go of the grip button, you let it go. That's how you throw things. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. I think their controller was better. Their hardware is lighter, and the screen has a bigger area in the middle where it is the focal point. You know what I mean? So that's why I waited. And anyway, I just had a feeling I was going to like it better, and I did. But yeah, and now though, mind you, now I think the Vive is still $800. As to our Oculus, as you mentioned before, is only $400 with the controllers.
And you're set for $400.
Right. To have, I'll say it straight up, to have this hardware for $400 is insane. That's even, it's like they're coming out with a wireless one. That's why it's the cost is down. They're trying to get a huge player base. But to have this technology, whether you've tried it or not, for $400 is probably the biggest steal you could ever have. Because it's a console, right? It's basically a console.
The headset alone is a console.
Right. So it's amazing. So that's a reason itself. If you were looking to get into it, see if you can find somewhere to try it out. But for $400, it's a steal. So Chris, what's your regimen for getting somebody into video games?
Can I stop in for 1 second?
Oh, sure.
VR?
I'm sorry, dude.
So that's okay, because I've been to your house and I went through the training program, and it's great. It's amazing. And take the price point aside, because you can save up for it. If you really want something like gamers, we can save up for it. My issue is I'm not the best PC person. I must have 100 viruses on my computer. I've got to update my graphics card. I got to do all this stuff. I personally am the weakest out of my group to do this. And now I'm going to dump extra money to get a VR headset that it feels like I'm going to always have to tweak and have the best, updates all the time. That, to me, is the barrier to entry. I do not want to get involved.
Here it is. This week, Oculus had their big press conference, and their thing is more VR everywhere. They want to have it in everyone's home. So what they're doing is they're making it much easier as well as cheaper to actually have it in your home. It's really exciting if you think about it, because they're creating Facebook MySpace or Spaces. So you can go to places with friends. Like you and I could be in our own homes, but yet, in the Grand Canyon looking at something, or going shopping for a car, or, hey, let's look for a vacation spot. We want our families to go together. You can do that now. And they're doing it with no, it's going to be so much easier to set up your $400 Oculus. Well, $400, is that too much for you, $400? And having a killer PC to set up with it? Don't worry about it. We've got an Oculus Go for $200. No PC, no phone required.
Right.
What?
Right, but this is also an
VR,
Oculus.
$200.
An Oculus Go is basically a Samsung Gear VR without a phone. Without a phone, which is cool. Everybody has a phone, but that is not what you're going to sell somebody on VR with.
No, but it is an option. You're going to sell it to, maybe not my mom, but someone's mom, because they're going to be on Facebook and they're going to be like, wow, this is really cool tech. $200, I can go on Facebook and be places and see the stars on the red carpet and stuff. Sold.
Yeah. That's cool. I think that would be great if they had more VR stuff that they did for sports and entertainment, which they don't have right.
Not in the U.S. I mean, there's talks of bringing this to India, this $200, and giving it to students in India, because God knows American schools suck and every other country is amazing, So they're going to have this tech and they're going to be developing for this and, creating more experiences, more reasons to have this in everyone's home. It's just really exciting. It's really exciting. They're going to have a new a mobile Oculus, so you don't have to have these long cables, thick cables up to you. There's not much news on that. They said they're going to release more next year, but that's really cool stuff. And if you're not selling VR to your friends now, Doug, you're going to be tomorrow, because at $400 getting into VR, it's going to be so much easier to get into it. You're going to want your friends to have it. And currently there's not many games we can play together. But they're working towards having more experiences for you and I to be together, to play something together, to watch a movie together, to be real friends and not just talk once a week or ever. We can actually hang out in virtual space. This is where you're going to want to sell VR to your friends, because you're going to want to hang out with them more often.
And they actually already have VR apps to hang out. There's one called Big Screen, which is basically a 4-player multiplayer virtual desktop kind of sharing thing, where you can put your desktop on the big monitor and you can play games together. You can watch 3D movies together. You can do all in a movie theater type thing. And there's a lot of cool things like that. Most of the social apps are kind of whack, but in general, the social apps tend to work with those mobile headsets too. So that's cool. You'd be able to have meetings with people. You know what I mean? If you had a business, I know a lot of business. I actually read a Reddit post yo, when Oculus Go does come out, I'm buying it for my company, so we can have meetings. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, for Corey's point, and so Corey, one thing that they did was they actually made Oculus Rift there's a software thing called ASW, asynchronous space warp, where if you drop underneath 90 frames per second, that's where you want to be for VR. If you drop under that, it starts simulating frames to keep the game looking like it's going at 90 frames. So now a straight line might get a little bit of warble in it, but the game still runs smooth. And that's why it was able to run well on my old hardware. That's something that they invented so people can have a mid-range computer and still run VR good. You know what I mean? Right now, I'm going into files and I'm cranking stuff up, but that's not necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I get your point of maybe you don't want to download the Oculus Tray tool and mess with super sampling and mess with ASW and do all this stuff that is extra. It does add to the experience, but not everybody's about this. Some people want to press power and put on a disc.
That's it.
That's fine. And
turn it on.
I get it. But that's why you got PSVR, right?
I don't. Yeah, exactly. You could do that.
That's why you got PSVR. Now PSVR, I can't bash it because it's great. It's good. I've tried it. It works great. It's not as crisp or clear as Oculus. You won't have the room scale, but if somebody has a PlayStation, they're a console gamer, there is no reason not to get that thing. It is awesome. It really is. Especially since you already have a PS4. You don't have to buy a new computer or a new console.
Exactly. And that it really is just turn it on.
Right, you just turn it on and play it.
Yep.
So, Chris, video games. What do you got? How do you get people to play games?
You just ask them for money and you don't let them play anything. No, I think it's really difficult.
It is.
It is really difficult because, like you said, hey, you guys play board games. You play D&D. D&D is not board games, but nothing's wrong with D&D. D&D is actually really cool, and I think once you start playing board games, I think D&D is a great option.
It's the ultimate.
It is. we haven't played much of it, and I don't want to knock it, but it's pretty fun. So totally. I mean, and look at like these now YouTube channels that are going huge. People watching, 6 people play D&D every week. How cool is that?
And they're also, what's funny is they're doing that in VR now. They're playing D&D